meeting to order of the New York State Procurement Council. First order of business is some introductions. We have several new members that I'd like to introduce today. First is Mecca Santana, who is the new Chief Diversity Officer. Ms. Santana previously served as the Executive Director of the Office of Equal Opportunity and Diversity Management at New York City Department of Education, where she was responsible for investigating civil rights violations and ensuring department-wide compliance with EEO laws and diversity policies in the largest school district in the country. In her position, she established the DOE's Diversity and Inclusion Program and created the DOE's first Minority and Women-Owned Business Diversity Council. Prior to joining DOE in 2008, Ms. Santana was the Senior Assistant Counsel for the New York State Commission of Investigation, where she investigated municipal corruption and assorted criminal matters. Ms. Santana began her legal career as an Assistant District Attorney in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Appointed by District Attorney Robert M. Morgenthau in 2000, Ms. Santana served as prosecutor in the Trial Division, the Sex Crimes Unit, the Domestic Violence, and the Welfare Unit. Ms. Santana received her BA from SUNY Albany in 1997 and her JD from Hofstra University School of Law in 2000. She also earned an Equal Employment Opportunity Studies Certification and Diversity Management Certification in 2009 from Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations. Welcome, Mecca.
Thank you so much.
Second, there was a bill that Chapter 452 of the laws of 2012 that created a new additional member for the Procurement Council. We're happy to welcome James Allen. He will be representing agricultural interest for the council. In 1996, Jim joined the New York Apple Association as Retail Promotion Director, and in 2000 was named President of the association. As President of the New York Apple Association, Jim represents over 675 apple growers in New York State, and his responsibilities include all administrative, promotional, grower educational, and communications issues, as well as market research, public and government affairs. He oversees a $3.3 million budget. Welcome, James.
Thank you.
Or should we call you Jim?
Jim is fine.
Great. We also have a new member representing OPWDD, Kelly Higgins, and we welcome you as well. Getting back to the agenda. We are going to introduce we're looking for approval of the draft minutes of our last meeting. Any discussion about those minutes? Any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, could I get a motion to accept the minutes? Jim, thank you. Second from Jerry. All in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. The minutes are accepted. We are now moving on to our first event of our meeting, which is Nancy Fisher. Oh, sorry, I skipped an item. We had included in your packet a revision to paragraph 5 of Appendix A, Standard Clauses for New York State Contracts. This is the Non-Discrimination Requirements Clause. Changes in the law prompted these revisions, which were drafted by the Office of the State Controller in conjunction with the Department of Law. We are presenting these for your consideration and approval for addition, and when we will the council will issue a new revised Appendix A and post it on the website. Any discussion about the revision? Okay, can I get a motion to accept the revision and addition to Appendix A? Thank you. Gregory? A second? Thank you, Charlotte. All in favor? Any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Okay, the revision is accepted and will be included in Appendix A and posted on the Council's website on the OGS website page. Next, we get to Nancy Fisher, who is with ESD. She has been working long and hard on a project to improve the contract reporter, and we want her to be able to tell you about her success story. And she will also have with her Paul Morano, Cogent Technologies, and believe they are responsible for helping Nancy achieve these improvements to the website.
Absolutely. We're thrilled with what we've come up with, and we hope that you share that with us today. We're also joined by Alice Rose with Cogent Technologies, who is instrumental in the discovery process and assuring that project management goes smoothly. We're going to start with what we currently work with. If this site were to go till February, it would be 10 years old. It is monochromatic, it is text heavy, it is boring, but it does its job. It does do its job. There's a lot of information on here, but it's not very intuitive, needs to embrace new technologies, and we're thrilled about the look of the new public homepage, which is simplified. Why do people go to the contract reporter? Well, they want to find contracts to bid on. They want to advertise. They want to learn about the New York State Business Registry, which is a new feature I'll describe shortly. Or they want to learn about how to do business in New York. There is no confusion on this page. You do not have to read tons of text to figure out where you want to go and what you want to do. Each of these links to a brochure page, which tells the viewer exactly what the site is about. So it describes how to advertise. It describes what the contract reporter is. There's no confusion about what the site is and what its purpose is. We're going to show you the agency dashboard this morning, and we're also going to show you the agency interface. As soon as you log on, the only access into the site, whether it's to view ads or place ads, is with personal login information and password. And you can see we've got a logo bin at the bottom of every page, links to the grants gateway with a division of budget. It links to a statewide financial system. It hyperlinks, each of those logos hyperlink to another key element of the state procurement process. So it's available both for vendors and for state agencies to have that ready access. The agency dashboard, right now what an agency encounters is a kind of squeezed together right-hand menu of unalphabetized links. It's not very user-friendly, and this puts everything that an agency may need to deal with right out in the open. So we've changed the way in which an agency user interfaces with the site, and we've changed it and simplified and made more intuitive the way in which one puts in ads. You can see right now, you can track how many ads are open in your agency. You can actually see other activity. Sometimes we get inquiries, I'm not sure if someone else in my agency placed this ad. How can I tell? Pending ads, we've created the ability for an agency to put in an ad today, go on vacation to Italy, and come back and their ad will have published while they're away. Incomplete ads, unlike the current site, the ad will save your work. So you don't lose something. You get interrupted, you get called away, you have to go back. Everything that you've done so far is saved for you. Continuous procurement. We have a problem in the current site with people placing ads for things they continuously purchase, but they get out of date. And nobody goes back and revisits this ad and archives it. The current site is going to remind you that this ad is running. You'll receive a message saying, hey, if you don't renew this, it's going to expire. But you can easily renew it and continue with your continuous procurement of fuel oil or staff or whatever it is that your agency continuously procures. Grants and notices of funds availability, we're still the official advertising mechanism for grants. So we have been in discussion with the Grants Gateway about how to facilitate discussion between the two sites. Posting bid results. Currently on the site, bid results wind up way over here, not linked to the ad at all. And what will happen on the new site is people will be able to track the results of bid openings and the bid results that will be posted, and it'll be in the display of the ad. It will be linked to the original ad so that you can really follow a solicitation from cradle to grave. Closed ads, this is an interim step. We periodically get inquiries from agencies saying they want to continue running the ad. That requires pulling it out of archive, continuing the running. What will happen now is before the ad is archived as a PDF file, it will be in this like limbo. It's not running as an open solicitation, but neither has it been converted into the archives. It can be pulled out, rerun, and sent back out with an e-alert bid notification. An agency administrator will have agency tasks, user account requests, address book approvals. This is a new feature. Address book, we have a lot of need for people to pull in people either within or without their agency, particularly with the municipalities, but also with the authorities. You'll have a project manager that may be with an outside engineering firm. We're going to have a technical contact address book that will be available so that private companies that are working as project managers can be identified as the contact for technical information without it being confused with the contact for the agency in regards to the procurement lobbying. It identifies who the agency administrators are for your agency. I frequently get calls from people, who's my agency administrator? How do I get into the site? How do I get access to do ads? So to a large extent, what we're trying to do is make my life easier. I hate to tell you that this site was built for me, but this site was built for me. And I get calls all the time. I have to find the agency administrator. I have to send that back to the inquirer. It's something that really doesn't need to be done. It can be done by the site. So agency administrators are readily identifiable by people wanting to get into the site. Now, if a new inquiry comes in, I had one this morning from Upstate Medical. I had to email them back. I had to remove their application from the site. I had to advise them to go back to their finance office for access. And now what will happen is they will submit that application and it will go to their agency administrator for approval. It will not come to me. If they're not in the site, it will be treated as a new application. We get them all the time from museums, not-for-profits, other people who interface with the contractor portal and utilize the site. Entering a new ad has been made much easier for new users and speeded up for current users. If you want to enter a new ad, the enter on behalf of is something that was created for Office of General Services Business Services Center in particular, because they sometimes have the need to interface with or act on behalf of another agency. So one of the things we built into the site is different permissions for different users. So what you're seeing is OGS user permissions. An ordinary agency would not see that. One of the problems we have is everything gets thrown into one big bread basket, and businesses then have to sort out what is an RFI from an RFP, from an RFQ, from a whatever. So what this does is, if it's just a general solicitation, you know, over $50,000, not identified as discretionary in nature, that's what the default setting is. However, if you're doing a discretionary procurement of less than $50,000, it unlocks the calendar. You don't have to advertise for 15 business days, because basically you don't have to advertise at all. So we're looking to have more of these smaller dollar procurements appear on the site without causing constraints. So you can select that. Or discretionary procurements between $50,000 and $200,000. These all become filters for retrieval of the ads, so that people looking to follow this smaller dollar activity can sort and pre-filter and have these delivered to their desktop through the e-alert bid notification system. And agencies benefit by increased competition for their procurements. One of the problems I have on all the time is people place notices of sole or single source exempt advertising as announcements, which are not archived, don't become part of the public record, and I have to get back to them and say, no, you have to put it in this way and do this and that and the other thing. This is pretty clear. You put it in here and then it appears for a week in the contract reporter as a notice of exempt procurement. Other things, announcement of surplus property disposal, that's only available to OGS and to authorities and to municipalities. That's one of those features, permissions that's not available to state agencies because state agencies must go through OGS in order to dispose of their surplus property. So a lot of these special features were built with the users in mind. Publication date, we've introduced the ability to delay publication, go on vacation, come back, your ad has published. You had to have fully submitted it with the publication date, which then determines what the earliest possible due date will be. Now we're going to go back and show you an incomplete ad, how that would be. I don't want to take you through the full wizard, but step by step you can just fly through the wizard. But if you have an incomplete ad, you've essentially done most of the work, but you still have to complete it and submit it. You can resume this ad. You can edit any part of the ad. It takes you back to that section of the site. You fix the publication date, resubmit it, and you return to the editing. You go down. There's another error. Large error messages. Right now, one of the problems with the site is it'll toss you right out and you have no idea why. You'll get a big error message and a lot of confusion, a lot of calls to me, and we're looking to have the site give the messaging and have the site do the repairs and have you be able to take the action to fix the problem. We did introduce something called the due date note. This is if you have a mandatory pre-bid meeting or you have something occurring prior to the due date, you may want to put a little message in there. It's optional, but alerts people to certain things. Questions must be submitted by a certain date, and that will appear in the final ad. So once you're ready for submission, are we ready for submission, Paul? All right. No error messages. Go to the bottom. You've got uploaded documents. You upload PDFs, Excel files, Word documents. Saves printing, costs, postage, all kinds of benefits to uploading your documents on the site. And this is how ads will appear, and this is how final review is. This is how ads appear when they're published. A whole list of key information on the left-hand side. Tabs at the top tell you about the description, the contact information, uploaded documents, and when available, when it appears published and uploaded bid notification, bid results are posted, that will appear as well. So we're ready to submit the ad, and the ad will be ready to publish tomorrow. We're not in real time for a particular reason. We have to have an issue date. We have to have a publication date that sets the clock for publication. Real time would not permit that, and it would cause the e-alerts to be like raindrops on a tin roof coming all day long. So we do this daily, and all ads appear first thing in the morning, Monday through Friday. The viewing ads is available to agencies in this section. You can view the ad, share the ad. This is just how a business would view this ad. But what we'll do now, Paul, if you could take us to a business view so we can see what a profile looks for. We've got events on the site. We've got bulletins. Bulletins is replacing announcements. Announcements was a bad word on the contract reporter. A lot of confusion over what an announcement was. So we've got bulletins. That might be the updated discretionary purchasing bulletin that the Procurement Council will pass shortly. So this is what the business sees, and we have links to the business registry. I haven't talked about the business registry yet. The business registry is the first centralized bid list for the state of New York, usable with state agencies, authorities. It's also available for prime contractors seeking subs and suppliers. We went out on the 17th of October with our first invitation for pre-registration to over 25,000 businesses, and we have over 2,000 pre-registered in that first invitation, and nearly 400 have already signed up with NAICS code, business description, all kinds of information in a searchable database of businesses. That's going to be updated annually. Everybody has to update their business registration profile every year. That's in order to keep it fresh and available for state agencies and prime contractors. Members of the business registry will also be able to be able to enter ads in the contract reporter for advertising. These are going to be color-coded differently. Do we have a picture of that, Paul, of a prime contractor ad? You can filter for them. The quick filters are on the left-hand side. You can quick filter for location. Oh, that's one of the things we added to the site. You can geolocate your ads. So if you have a project going on in Albany or the capital region, or it's statewide, you can indicate that in the ad, and businesses can pre-filter for geographic location of projects. The contractor ads display like an agency ad. They go out in the categories with the agency ads, but they are clearly identified as a contractor ad. This is a prime contractor seeking subcontractors or suppliers. This is intended to augment the second and third tier participation of New York State small businesses and minority and women-owned businesses in state procurement opportunities. It also provides the prime contractors with a free and readily available centralized advertising capability to let them know of their contracting needs. And these are ads that are reviewed by us before they appear. Somebody eyes on an ad. It doesn't just auto-publish the way an agency ad does. And we think it's going to be a very attractive solution for helping businesses find subs and suppliers. One last thing I'd like to show you is the business registry. Nearly 400 businesses have already signed up. And if you were an agency and you were seeking, say, information technology firm, and you wanted to search for a company, type in software into the search box. You can do an advanced search. But here you have 31 companies already registered. These are real companies. This is live data. And these are companies that are interested in doing business with the state of New York. And you can see that they have entered in their company name, goods and services, any designations they may have. It's a woman-owned or minority-owned business, whether or not they offer goods or services that are recycled or remanufactured, food grown or harvested in New York. All the discretionary purchasing criteria have been entered in as key elements, contact information, and other information is available. One of the other things of the site I forgot to mention, if any changes are made to an ad during the period of time in which advertising is ongoing, the contract reporter now keeps a log of all ad changes. If the time is extended, Q&A is uploaded, procurement is canceled and taken down and is no longer running as an open solicitation, that has to be logged in by the agency making the change in order to maintain the integrity of the advertising portion of the procurement process. Advanced search of the business registry allows you to search by keyword, by classification, which is the contract reporter new matrix of categories, by geolocation. If you know you're a local DDSO of OPWDD, you can find providers of a particular item in the capital region quite easily. And this is to facilitate discretionary spend and augment the procurement process. Any questions about the new site? I've tried to explain it to the best of my ability. I don't think I hit on every single feature. Every requirement has been entered into the site. We have the quarterly and semi-annual reports. We have the archives, and the archives are searchable. We are migrating the archives from the current site to the new site and crosswalking the categories so that they'll be searchable under the new category descriptions. So we think we've really made a pretty comprehensive rebuild, entire rebuild of the current, not a rebuild, I'm sorry, a complete ground-up redesign of the concepts and capabilities of the current site. Yes, Mary Beth.
First of all, let me just say this is pretty cool. I really like this a lot.
Oh, that's
So
high
this is
praise.
exciting.
That's great.
But one of the things that the businesses can show in there is whether they're a minority or women-owned business.
Yep.
Is there any verification that they're in fact certified?
No, because the directory is a constantly changing element. We did discuss whether or not the directory could be, and at this time it will not be. It's up to the agency to do their due diligence in verifying this information. We do an eyes-on verification. Does this look like a real company, or have they entered Minnie Mouse? But you know, due diligence as far as the capacity of the firm to carry out, it's not meant to replace vendor responsibility or other tools that are out there.
Is there going to be any outreach to MWBEs to get them to enroll in
Yes.
this? Because that
It's
little
already
map
happened.
thing where you can find an MWBE is going to be really helpful.
Yes, yes, and that's already been worked with MWBE. We're encouraging every MWBE to be entered into the contractor portal and the business registry because it benefits them. A lot of minority and women-owned firms may not yet be certified. That does not mean that they can't do business with the state of New York, and it does not mean that they don't want to do business with the state of New York. They just don't happen to be in the certified directory. Their certification may be pending, or it may not have occurred to them. It gives us an opportunity to reach out to the firms that are in here that have indicated that they're minority or woman-owned and encourage them to become certified. So there's a lot of purposes behind the information that we're collecting that will enhance our programs at ESD and enhance, in particular, the engagement of small businesses and MWBEs. Any other questions?
Nancy?
Yes.
Yeah, you're saying that you're in the process of migrating information over.
Yes.
What is the launch date or
By
the date?
the end of November is what's planned. We have already opened up for pre-registration, so businesses are signing up. Businesses are signing up for the business registry. And tomorrow or Friday we'll open for beta testing. We had several volunteers from the agencies and authorities, SUNY CUNY. It really was a wonderful, supportive volunteering, real volunteering, not would you volunteer, to help us beta test the site. So we really hope that it'll be, any bugs will be shaken out during that period. Migration of data is largely the agency information. We're not going to have agencies register. We've cleansed that data for to migration. And then there, of course, there's the archives.
Secondly, when something might be pulled, is there
Yes.
an explanation that one can get a hold of? I mean, I didn't happen to see that, but is there a justification as to why something might be
Yes,
pulled?
when an ad appears, it will have any changes will appear on the ad in one of the tabs. And when somebody wants to take any action on that ad, whether it's editing or uploading Q&A midway through or something like that, they have to enter in what they're doing, who they are, what they're doing, and when they're doing it. And it keeps that whole list of change log as attachment to the ad as one of the tabs.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Char.
The document vault, can an agency find out who pulled down their documents?
Yes, there will be an ability. Right now, they can do that. If they upload the document, but it's more cumbersome now. What happens is if they upload, they can download a list of all viewers. If the viewer goes back and views it more than once, we capture every time, which is, you don't really need to know that. But the other thing it does is it does not then outreach if you upload a secondary document, like you upload Q&A halfway through. What the site will do now is automatically send that to the list of people if you have documents attached. If you don't have documents attached, you'll be able to view everybody who's bookmarked that ad. But when you upload attachments, it's going to open up this enhanced ability to view and track ad activity.
That's really great functionality. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the feedback. Anything else? Yes, David.
Regarding the agencies establishing their administrators and then who has access, what's the timeline on that and how that's going to be accomplished?
We've already reached out to every agency over the course of the summer. Agency administrators only, not users. And we've asked the administrators to update information for their agency. So what we've received back is either confirmation that they're in there, confirmation or recommended changes. And then that will be uploaded. Now, what the new site will do is annually require maintenance of that. People retire, people leave state service, people go on maternity leave or medical leave, whatever, they're not available, and it will monitor the agency users of the site and send reminders to the administrators that that activity, that account is up for renewal and confirmation. So it's going to be a self-purging automated system. Now, you shook your head like maybe you weren't contacted,
Yeah,
or
I don't recall our agency being contacted.
I'll double check when I get back to the office, and I'll give you a call. I can send you the file, and if it needs to be reviewed again, be happy to have that done. We're going to be uploading the agency files probably in the next couple of weeks, so you know, that shouldn't be an issue. One of the things we did when I talked about permissions, all the state agents, OGS stands alone with certain permissions. Municipalities will have the ability to advertise under municipal guidelines. State authorities and state agencies will be kept to the 15 business days of advertising. We've really looked to loosen up some of the rules that were driving everybody to follow state finance law when they didn't necessarily have to do that. So I think that we'll find more users, and the goal is to make the contract reporter in its 25th year a truly centralized repository of state procurement information that serves all state governmental and not-for-profit users. So any other questions? Yes, David.
I noticed in the one section where you had MWBE participation and you had percentages, is there any thought of also allowing the advertisement to identify that this procurement might be exempt from that? Because that's also...
Well, you just wouldn't check it. It's not a required field. And so if when you're advertising you leave it blank, it doesn't appear in the ad.
Okay.
Because if it's under $25,000, I don't think goals are set on a particular ad.
Even if it's over 25, there's certain instances where there's not a sufficient MWBE pool, so we get exemptions before we advertise.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're getting asked to then provide that information back to ESD. So
Yeah.
again, if this is going to be the place where everything's getting entered.
It'll show, you can either put 0, in which case it'll appear as 0, or it doesn't appear at all if you don't put anything in it. That's the way it works now, and that's the way it's going to work on the new site. And if you've got some suggestions or recommendations, we're always open for suggestions and recommendations. We have a 5-year contract with Cogent Technologies, and we already have a whole list of enhancements for the first quarter of 2014.
I mean, I don't know how other agencies, but I mean, we get requests periodically from ESD with a quick turnaround time. We just got a request, I believe, Monday that's due in 5 days. And a lot of times this information isn't easy to identify, where if this is the place where all this information is going to be stored, and to work with kind of ESD as to what their needs are and what agencies' needs are would just make it easier for everybody.
One of the things we're building into the site is better reporting. Agencies will be able to draw down information on their own ad activity, which is very difficult to do on the current site, and generate a report. I don't know that we wrote it to include MWBE activity, but that certainly can be added to the list of enhancements, Alice? Okay. So we can talk about that as an enhancement in the agency reports.
Let me
if
address
that's
that
helpful.
point just briefly. So the New York State contract system, which is the new online system for agencies to track their expenditure as it relates to MWBE procurement, would probably be the easiest way to actually track on a contract-by-contract basis using the contract compliance module that's part of that system. This is designed to work sort of, you know, there are sort of links between that system and this system, but in terms of reporting as it relates to MWBE goals, waivers, utilization plans, those sorts of things, the contract system would probably be the mechanism to do that. I'd also like to just say on behalf of Empire State Development, I'd like to recognize Nancy and our MIS system and Cogent for their great work on this. Like, we really think that this is going to help, you know, streamline the process of businesses doing work with the state, and this is a dramatic improvement. And so I'd like to thank Nancy and the team for putting this together.
Thanks, Stephen.
We've got one more question,
Yes.
Ann.
Oh.
We got another.
What, I don't know if you said this already.
Hi, Tom.
Are there any charges for using this from
Nope.
the outside? Because it used to
Nope.
be okay,
free.
Nope, free alerts and all that.
Yep.
Are all
it's
free.
free.
Okay.
It's the best four-letter word I know.
All right. Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome, Tom. Healthcare? He's asking me to fix Obamacare. I'm not sure.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Thank you, Paul. That was a wonderful presentation, and I think I can say for everyone, we're all looking forward to using the new contract reporter, and it's going to be very useful to us. Thank you very much. All right, our next item of business, Christine Irvine, who's an assistant director with OGS NICEPRO, is going to report on preferred source recommendations under OGS's standing authority.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Each of the Procurement Council members received in their packet a brief synopsis of the applications that I'm going to speak about. Since the last Procurement Council meeting that was held in February, we had 5 new applications approved that are under $100,000. The first one is paper napkins. These are white, one-ply luncheon napkins. Their manufacturer materials come from Lifespire from South Florida Tissue Paper Company. That's near Miami, Florida. This is expected to produce work for 2 to 3 individuals, and the estimated annual sales for this product is about $74,000. The second item on the list is cap-mounted earmuffs, and it provides hearing protection for individuals with hard hats. The manufacturer materials for this product come from McQuaid and Bannigan in East Syracuse. This product is expected to provide 1 job, and annual sales are estimated at $14,694 a year. The next item is protective earmuffs. This is another hearing protection item. The manufacturer, again, is McQuaid and Bannigan from East Syracuse. It will provide 1 job, and the estimated annual sales for this product is $14,068. The next item is a hard hat bracket. This item is used to hold earmuffs and also allows for a face shield to be applied with a hard hat. The manufacturer of these raw materials is McQuaid and Bannigan in East Syracuse. It's expected to produce 1 job, and the annual sales for this item is expected at $11,847. And the last item is baby wipes. This is made for sensitive skin, 3 layers quilted with cotton. The manufacturer for this product is First Quality Products in Great Neck, New York. And this product is expected to produce 1 to 2 jobs, and estimated annual sales for this product is $30,000.
Thank you, Christine. Any questions? All right, then we'll move on to the next item of business. We have an application from the National Industries for the Blind with respect to incontinence products. They will come up and talk about their application.
Thank you, Ann.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Hi. And thank you for the Procurement Council for reviewing this application today. My name is Carrie Laney. I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Preferred Source Program for People Who Are Blind. We are managed by the National Industries for the Blind, celebrating its 75th year running a federal procurement program that's very similar. I'm here to make a brief presentation to highlight the application before you, requesting inclusion for a line of incontinence products to be added to the Preferred Source Program. First, I want to quickly acknowledge a few people I have here with me today in case some questions come up. Amanda Elam, Project Development Manager that works in my office. Tony Tellerico, he's here from our agency in Utica, CBVI. He's the VP for Sales and Marketing. And Scott Lickerowitz, he's Medline Central New York Account Manager. So the New York State Preferred Source Program for People Who Are Blind is bringing this application to the Council for approval in the interest of providing meaningful employment for our Utica agency. We have 44 items, 42 of which are USA manufactured by Medline, who's joined us today, with known past usage by the New York State agencies, and they were provided, and they were recently offered on a state contract. The other 2 items are Prevail Stretch Fit Briefs, manufactured by New Tech, which is a New York State company. These 2 items were added to this line of our offering in response to a specific request made by one of our largest customers, New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation. Utica CBVI employees will be performing repackaging work, receiving in bulk, packing into appropriate case quantities, creating labels, labeling those cases, and preparing them for shipment to customers. Addition to the New York State Preferred Source Program offering will allow for the continued employment of 1 to 2 employees at minimum. That's a conservative estimate. Our pricing is competitive and frequently lower than much of the market comparisons. Our offering is a direct result of specific customers who've reached out to us to ask us if we could carry these items that we have in front of you today. Thank you to OGS for your guidance and approval of this application, and we'd like to thank the Council for your consideration.
Thank you. You want to stay while we see if there's any questions? OGS has given you a summary of its review of the application in your packet, and it outlines the things that we reviewed in connection with the application. And in summary, OGS NICEPRO has determined that NYSPSP's pricing for all products is within 15% of prevailing market rate, not wage, that's as required under State Finance Law Section 162. OGS NICEPRO recommends to the State Procurement Council approval of the application to add adult incontinence products to the NYSPS preferred source offering list of commodities. Any questions or discussion by the members? Steve?
Just one comment. First of all, thank you for your presentation. I understand that we provided a list of New York State manufacturers, which you may be able to partner with, and so we encourage you to do so. And thanks again for your presentation.
Absolutely. They're part of, a lot of them, the 2 are part of this application.
Great.
Yeah.
Part of the summary on the cons is that the product is also in competition with New York State Industries for the Disabled. Do we know what the impact of approving this would be on them?
Christine, can you address that, please?
Certainly. That information is also in your packet. There are, let me find it, there are there's 44 items on the NIB's list, and NICET has overlap on 17 items. In each case, in each and every case, the NIB price is lower than the NICET approach.
Do we know how many FTEs this will be affecting on Industries for Disabled by moving this over?
One of the things I would like to add is that we found that customers were purchasing from a previous contract that Medline had with the state, and also were purchasing directly from grocery stores and other places. So there was already these purchases outside of the preferred source program. So we anticipate that being part of this preferred source offering.
From OGS's perspective, I can say that as we looked at this, we are interested in supporting the disabled and the blind, both. We are interested in saving taxpayer dollars as well, and we did not see this necessarily as competition, but actually providing additional opportunities. There's additional bandwidth and there's additional opportunities, so we didn't see it as much as taking away as providing choice. If NIBs doesn't meet the form, function, and utility, they are still free to go to NICID and use that source as well.
And, speaking quickly to your comment about, I think OMH and OPW buying from local areas, I mean, a lot of it, especially for OMH, is that we have community residences, and part of the program is to acclimate the patients to the community. So part of that is utilizing local grocery stores and things like that. So again, at a facility basis, I would see that this would be an asset to us, but for some of our community residences, there might be, a little bit different need.
And I think that would be part of your form, function, and utility decision.
Right, but I just want to make that point.
Thank you for that clarification.
Hi. Greg was before you, Jim.
Yeah, in that same section on the cons, it mentioned that this group would receive first priority over NICID, and I just want to understand how that would work.
In the statute, which sets forth who gets preferred source status, Corecraft has first priority, but they're only permitted to sell commodities, approved commodities that are on the list. The second priority goes to blind workers, and the third priority goes to disabled by the statute.
The statute.
Yes, Jim.
Can you get one of the...
Thank you.
Oh, good. We can.
Yeah, I'm a little confused here. I see the pecking order, and then you say these 17 items are not in competition. So you would think, okay, now Corecraft should come in and say, well, we can do these even cheaper. So therefore, we would like to also be included in this. So they come back to us and ask for these 17 items. Now, when somebody wants to buy one, first they go to Corecraft, and if it doesn't work out, then they go to the blind, and if that doesn't work out, then they come to NICID, and then they can go out to the market. Is this what the Procurement Council is all about? I'm a little confused here.
I don't think this is what the Procurement Council is about, but at this juncture, we have to look to the statute for direction, and in this instance, the legislature clearly set a priority among the various groups that they were going to give this special preferred source status to. We have not had many items over the years where there's been this cross-competition, but it is not impermissible by virtue of the way the statute is set up.
But it would seem to me this is the beginning of something, because, I mean, if I was with Corecraft, I would say, gee whiz, I didn't realize we could do this. So we can beat NICID out on their prices, but first we have to wait for us to decide what we're going to do. Then the blind can try it, and then NICID can try it. I mean, it seems to me we're setting up a precedent here of competition within our own three groups here. I just have a problem with it. That's why I'm asking.
I understand the concern, but I have to also make an observation. I've worked with the Procurement Council for a few years, and these groups have always been very respectful of each other, so I'm not necessarily going to say that the trend is for cutthroat competition.
I'm just giving my opinion.
We also have precedents here where there is overlap in other categories. Laundry bags is one example. There's also glass cleaner.
Yep.
There's a variety of different sources. This information is available on our website if you want to take a look at it. There's a checklist that tells you who's able to, what items you can purchase from whom and where there is. So you can see where there is overlap and where there is not.
But I think it's really helpful that you've raised this concern to the council.
Yeah, this concerns me. Thank you.
Mary Beth?
I'm just a little confused when you said that the Industries for the Blind is less expensive than NICET in every category, because the chart shows that for a lot of the products, NICET is slightly less expensive, and it is really just slight. But wouldn't we have an expectation that if we're going to give someone, allow someone to basically slip in and gain precedent over another organization, that they at least should match the price so that our costs for these services don't go up from one preferred source to another preferred source?
You're saying match the price. You're saying NICET should match NIB's price, or are you saying
No, I'm saying
NIB
if
should
we're,
match NICET's
if
price?
we're going to be shifting a commodity purchase from NICET to NIB, I would like to think that the price is not going to go up with that shift. And the chart, when you compare item to item, I see that there is a difference. Now, I know there was some discussion of a delivery charge, and quite frankly, I'm not very familiar with the purchase of this particular product, but I'm just surprised that we're about to give basically a priority to a higher priced item, and that doesn't seem to fall into anything that we do with any decision making that we do these days.
Can you tell me which item you're looking at?
Well, on this chart that was included, it shows the price for the blind, and it shows the price for NICET. And I went through and selected, and for a number of them, the blind's price is 39 cents an item, NICET's price is 35 cents an item, for example. So, I mean, it's not a huge price difference, but I was just concerned about why we would be basically giving a monopoly to a higher priced entity.
When we do our pricing analysis, we have to look at a variety of factors, and some of them are things like what the material is made of, whether they're truly equal, whether they're similar, all of that sort of stuff.
And I understand that when you're looking at the price, you're comparing them to the market, and so they may still meet that market test. But basically the cost of the agency will go up by moving from NICET to Industries for the Blind, perhaps. And that may not actually happen, because I don't know who's buying which of these items, and so there may not actually be any real concern there. I'm just, like you, a little concerned about the precedent here, that pricing, the change in pricing and something becoming more expensive, doesn't seem to be part of we don't seem to be able to have the ability to include that in our decision making when selecting from among the preferred sources.
I mean, you do continue to have a form, function, and utility. And in an instance where you feel that the product that the disabled is offering and the blind are offering are comparable, and you see that the price is lower on one of the two items, and I don't care which group it is, I think you can make a form, function, and utility decision to pay the lower price and achieve the savings that you need for your particular agency.
I mean, that's good. If that's true, that's good.
Really, our primary direction statutorily is to determine where that price is with respect to market price. Thank you. But it's a very good point, Mary Beth. I completely understand, and I'm glad you raised it here, and it's on the record. Any more questions?
One more. On the analysis, it's saying that the estimated annual sales is projected to be $1 million, but the FTEs is 0.8. Is that correct?
I think maybe we can ask for
Total
comment.
total FTEs is 1.21, but the direct blind labor was estimated to be 0.81, and a lot of those sales are related to the actual product. And then I described earlier what the blind labor value added to that process would be, and that is the amount of blind labor that's involved in this project, which is a very conservative estimate, assuming a ramp up in sales.
Any more discussion? All right, we're looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we not do it.
Can you use the microphone, please?
I'd like to make a motion that we don't approve this.
Any discussion on the okay, I need a second to that motion. Since there is no second, the motion does not advance. Thank you, Jim. Any other, is there a motion to approve? Thank you, Michael. A motion to second? Thanks, Jim. On this one, I think I'd like a formal vote with hands or, okay, I think we'll go around the table for the vote. I have to start with somebody, so I'm going to start with the new guy, Jim.
Approve.
Second, Jim.
Yes.
Mary Beth.
Approved.
Steve.
Approved.
Kelly. Mike.
Approved.
Tom. Jerry.
Approved.
Greg.
Approved.
Jim.
Disapprove.
Charlotte.
Approved.
Dave.
Approved.
Andy.
Yes.
Mecca? All right, the motion is approved and the application is approved, and this product will be added to the preferred source offerings. Thank you. And we
Thank you
will
for your
now move
consideration.
on to the, thank you, Casey. We will now move on to the next application, which is for digital printing. I believe, Ron, that you've got a, did we get the PowerPoint loaded?
Yeah, it's actually been up there for some time.
Okay.
I didn't want to.
I had other things to look at.
Yes, I didn't want to waste any time. I know time is limited. Good morning. I think it's still morning, or is it afternoon? My name's Ron Romano. I'm the president and CEO of NYSED. I appreciate the opportunity to present our application for digital printing today. Again, I know there's limited amount of time, and I also know I'm the last presenter standing between you and lunch, not an enviable position. So I'll be brief because I believe our application for digital printing meets all the statutory requirements for your approval. I did want to take a few minutes to update you on NYSED and the importance of our mission, which is turning business opportunities into jobs for New Yorkers with disabilities. And the individuals on the screen that you see, Donald Huckins and Mark Smith, were our co-recipients of our Joslin Award for outstanding performance at our recent annual meeting, which was in September. And I distributed our Joslin Award program so you could read more about the successes of the 59 people that are recognized this year as your time permits. We were fortunate at our meeting to have Commissioner Roanne DeStito participate in presenting the Joslin Award to Donald and Mark, confirming New York's commitment to preferred source employment. And I know being part of this celebration was particularly meaningful to the Commissioner. She acknowledged being from the Utica area, and she actually knew Bill Joslin pretty well when he was running one of our member agencies. And she also recognized Mark as he performs janitorial services in the very building she works in, the Corning Tower. So it was kind of old home week. I'm pleased to share, and this information is relatively recent, so I am pleased to share information about our membership and employment results. In 2013, we had 173 members. These are the organizations throughout the state that provide the training and support in developing our skilled and reliable workforce, allowing NYSED to provide jobs in nearly every county in New York State. Our employment results include jobs of 6,941 jobs for individuals with disabilities employed on NYSED contracts. It's a little down from last year, but we're still working hard at it. And these individuals earned an average wage of $13.44 an hour. And we're particularly proud that these accomplishments and the fact that NYSET is able to contribute to the vitality and viability of New York State's economy and also employ a diverse group of individuals on our contracts. You'll note that nearly half of the individuals that provide direct labor on our contracts are either African American or Hispanic. We also employ 134 veterans and provide a multitude of supports for veterans returning to their communities and the workforce. The theme of our annual meeting was empowering New Yorkers and supporting New York. This theme, I think, signifies the purpose of Preferred Source. We talked a little bit about that earlier. And I think it's best captured by a quote from Commissioner DeStito when she said, "The law ensures key social and economic goals that promote self-sufficiency and self-determination," and that's what Preferred Source is about. And the Commissioner went on to further say that empowering New Yorkers and supporting New York is a practice that everyone in the Empire State benefits from, and we think so too. And so that's why I'm here today to present digital printing as an addition to NYSET's Preferred Source offerings. We think it will both empower New Yorkers with disabilities and support New York State. It will add or aid our efforts to close the employment gap whereby individuals with disabilities are employed at less than half the rate of individuals that are not disabled. And I keep bringing this up because that's why we're here. That's why we have a Preferred Source program. And that statistic is documented in the chart that I passed out with the Joslin Award program. Our official application for digital printing was provided to you prior to the meeting. OGS has done a great analysis, a price comparison, and has recommended for approval this application. Digital printing is an excellent complement to our array of services that we already offer, including mail fulfillment, scanning, photocopying, and reproduction. As noted in the NICE-Pro analysis, it is because of a change in the printing law, which occurred about a year ago, that we are now able to offer digital printing as a Preferred Source service. Our application outlines the labor steps that will be performed by individuals with disabilities, expanding our document processing services to include digital printing is an area of opportunity where we have capability and experience to provide jobs for New Yorkers with disabilities. We anticipate that the individuals working on NYSET Preferred Source digital printing contracts will earn an average of $10.50 an hour. And based upon market research, we estimate the market for digital printing among New York State agencies to be about $8 million. Historically, we've strived to attain about a 15% market penetration. Therefore, it would be about $1.2 million. And employing one full-time worker for every about $100,000 in business, which is our estimate, we would anticipate we would create 10 to 12 new full-time jobs for people with disabilities across New York State with the approval of this service. The OGS analysis provides and it cites a study by the Office of the State Comptroller that concludes that in-house printing and reproductive services currently offered are not cost-effective. We also know that a portion of these services are currently provided by out-of-state providers. In building our market share, we hope to maximize these opportunities for New Yorkers with disabilities. Our application also includes a list of 8 members throughout New York State, 5 of which will partner with New York State small businesses to provide this service. These partnerships will create additional integrated work opportunities for New Yorkers with disabilities. One of our partners, Camelot Printing, is a certified MWBE, and we'll be partnering with Northeast Career Planning here in the Capital Region. We also provided a list of customers that our members and partners have serviced in the past, as well as a sample of NICED pricing by region for the plain Jane type of digital printing, which again the OGS analysis confirms is equal to or lower than the pricing of comparable public and private entities, and certainly within the 15% prevailing market pricing. We do anticipate, as noted in the analysis, that a portion of our work, future work, will require OGS price approval. It won't be the plain Jane type. Over the past 10 years, the Procurement Council has approved 4 new preferred source offerings for NICED, the most recent of which was in 2006. That was actually digital imaging. And in 2012, these 4 categories added over 240 FTEs for individuals with disabilities, and I believe there's some stats in the application on that. Expanding the services available under Preferred Source Program is critical in empowering New Yorkers and supporting New York, and we request your approval. The addition of digital printing to NICED's list of preferred source offerings. I'm happy to answer any questions. I think we have some time and before the council votes.
Charlotte?
Yes.
Ron mentioned that in NICE's analysis, it includes the claim that state agencies would most likely save money by outsourcing digital printing to NICED, and it cites a very outdated study published by the Comptroller's Office in 1995 that covers the audit period between 1991 and 1993. That's 20 to 22 years ago, which actually was a follow-up to a 1985 audit. So first, I'd just like to express serious doubt that any conclusions made in the prior millennium could be valid in 2013. And I want to make the record clear that the Comptroller's Office is not advising agencies to outsource their printing, and that we have not done any recent analysis with respect to NICED's claim. And my question for NICED and OGS is any of the data in this outdated report considered in your analysis, or was it just a quote that you took out of the report?
In doing our research, that was a quote. The market pricing is up to date, I believe.
OGS could not find the report, so we did not use it. We just put it in the findings as provided by NICED.
Yeah, I couldn't find it either. I had to go to the state archives because it was so old.
We're thorough.
You have to request a printed copy, which I did, but I haven't gotten it. So.
Yeah, my concern is when you include something so old and outdated and clearly irrelevant, that it kind of puts in question your other numbers and your analysis.
Okay, understood.
All right, thank you for that input, Charlotte. That's helpful. Steve?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to congratulate NICED on its work over the years. Empire State Development certainly supports the mission of NICED and the preferred sources, and have approved dozens of offerings for the preferred sources. Empire State Development, in terms of our responsibility in reviewing these offerings, is to review contract applications to assess whether there is a significant impact on a substantial number of New York State businesses. This application is for digital printing, defined in the NICED application as a physical process that transfers an image stored in digital format on a computer to a printable material. Although time for review was brief, I believe this got posted earlier this week, we received a number of concerns from New York State printers and printer associations to this application, expressing concern over not just pricing, which isn't a source of our review, but impact on the industry in New York State and the technical expertise required to execute such a contract. Although we support many applications after the agency's review, ESD is very concerned about the application and its impact on New York State businesses, and therefore recommends denial of this application for the following reasons. One, digital printing is an extremely large market with many New York State businesses participating in it. Although offset printing is decreasing, digital printing is the fastest growing segment of the printing industry. As you heard, NYSED estimates that the New York State agency demand to be about $8 million. However, that could be actually understated and grow considerably over time, given the trends in this industry and the change, as I mentioned, from offset printing to digital printing. There are literally thousands of printing companies in New York State. By one count, 2,548 firms. 268 of them are MWBE certified. And given the priority and the other policy goals within the state of promoting procurement to small businesses and to MWBEs in this area, which is certainly a growth area for contracting of the state, we believe this would have a significant impact on a large number of firms. Second, although there was limited time to respond to the public posting, we did hear from a number of industry associations and firms, and that response has been overwhelmingly negative. So, for example, Printing Industry Alliance came out strongly opposed based on what they see as unfair competitive advantage and the impact on New York State companies. Individual New York State printers have complained that this subsector of the printing industry is, as I just talked about, rapidly growing portion of their revenues, and business activity among printing companies a growing part of their business, and that approval of this contract would result in decreased opportunity and could actually lead to layoffs in the private sector among these firms. They claim that these machines, cost a lot of money, and that many New York State companies have already invested in this equipment. They're highly leveraged against this equipment, and they're concerned about loss of opportunity given their significant investment. By way of an example, there is a firm here today, Custom Printers of Guilderland. Scott Ragone is representing that company. They are a certified women business enterprise. They claim that their revenues, they get over half their revenues from New York State, and that digital printing, they're doing more and more on digital printing, and they actually have a pending contract of close to $1 million, which would be impacted by this offering. And that's a contract that would result in what they consider to be significant job creation. Printers and associations also noted some other issues in the application, namely around technical expertise and cost and some of the details of the justification. And you heard about the concern with the report. There are also concerns about other things in the application, which includes operating these machines takes significant technical skill and usually have one operator, not two, and that having one to load paper and another to do the technical work would increase production time and cost. Benchmarking against, and this is OGS's per review, obviously, but benchmarking against FedEx or Kinko's is not appropriate given the premium charged by these providers, and that most individual or specialty printers would price at a considerably lower cost. OGS, in its analysis, did note difficulty of benchmarking because of the lack of pricing information available or willing to be shared by independent printers. And so, in summary, despite our overall support of the Preferred Source program, in this particular instance, given the growth of technology-related industries in New York State, the rapidly growing market for digital printing in New York State, the relatively large number of printing companies, both small and certified MWBE firms, and the trend of these companies to move from offset printing to digital printing, the growing market and the increasing demand within New York State agencies and authorities for these services, and the prospect for even more increased growth over time, in addition to the uncertainty identified by OGS and the industry over pricing, ESD recommends denial of this particular application.
Jerry?
Ann, did either NISPRO or NICID in their analysis consider the impacts of this application on the currently ongoing statewide printing consolidation efforts?
We recognize that there is in-house printing. We certainly are, OGS is certainly aware of the consolidation. And we maintain that if it is an in-house operation and an agency wishes to source that printing to the consolidated print shop, that is not impacted by granting preferred source status to NICID, because it is an authorized state operation, and that is a legitimate avenue for agencies to pursue fulfilling their needs for digital printing. Yes, Michael.
Just had a question. Perhaps I missed it in the application someplace here.
Michael, can you pull that up closer?
I certainly can. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. With OGS's conclusion, it says, where appropriate, NYS Pro also recommends that all equipment purchased with state funds become property of the state at the conclusion of this project. I guess what I'm trying to understand is how much equipment are we talking about that would be purchased, and what is the conclusion of the project?
Christine, can you address that?
Each of these applications have, in many cases, they have partners, and those partners are private partners in conjunction with another partner that's providing the disabled workforce. As we looked at this, we were concerned that we're seeing applications that have significant purchase of equipment, and we wanted to make sure that that equipment didn't go to the private entity, that if the state is using state money to purchase it, that should be part of the state's equipment.
And because these, each of these task orders, for lack of a better term, is going to have to be approved by OGS, so that would be part of the analysis that would go into looking at each individual task order.
Correct. Correct.
Can I just...
So we have no idea what the actual cost of this equipment is, then. OGS does not have that information available.
It will be in the task force order. I mean, each of these, for instance, let me just give you, for janitorial services, when NICID wants to provide janitorial services to an OGS facility, that is a separately approved purchase every time, or if you, or if any agency has one, those all come in as individual, and we look at the pricing at the time that surrounds that particular purchase.
I guess I'm just not clear on how that would be executed. The private firm would purchase the equipment, and the equipment would then become part of the state, or is OGS purchasing the equipment for the private company, and then it is part?
That's something we have yet to see, but we just felt that if the equipment was being purchased with state monies, that it be part of the state, not part of the private entities to keep.
So that has not been really cleared up yet.
It depends on. It's going to depend on the application, and I can't speak to this because this is all hypothetical. So we just wanted to address it in case it does come up.
Thank you. And it says at the conclusion of the project. What is that? The conclusion?
It would depend on each application. That's what Ann was trying to say.
Okay. Thank you.
If it was to do all the digital printing needs of an agency, for instance, for 24 months, everything, soup to nuts, and they had to buy a piece of equipment as part to fulfill that requirement, then we would do an analysis as to whether it would be appropriate for the state to own the equipment at the conclusion of that requirement over a 24-month period. On the other hand, if it's a one-time job, they probably are going to be using existing equipment. Ron, you can interject here if you would.
Yeah, I think in terms of equipment, you know, we provide a very detailed cost analysis, so it has any supplies or equipment that we would require for any particular job, and that equipment is amortized over, you know, a period of years or production quantities or whatever the appropriate measure is. So I think, those particular costs would be in any application, whether it was preferred source or private bid. It's just that with ours, we're much more transparent. We don't give just a final number. We give all the details of the cost. So you would see that equipment. And I assumed what that meant when I read it was that if we did a very large project where, as Ann said, a specific piece of equipment was purchased, that that might be considered the states at the end. But on the projects that we were looking at, the volumes, et cetera, obviously you're using equipment, and I don't think it would revert to the state at the end because they're smaller quantities. And again, it would be included, the cost of that would be included in anyone's overall pricing.
How would you decide which equipment the company kept or the state would then take ownership by the size or the dollar amount?
I think it's that of OGS if we.
That would be part of our analysis as to whether.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I just, if I could, I just wanted to address Steve's comments, if I may. This has been and I apologize that it's only recently, but we've provided our application originally in 2011, believe it or not, but most recently for the April meeting. So there's been, I think plenty of time to comment and work collaboratively on your concerns. Unfortunately, we seem to have first learned about them here. But you mentioned a couple things. One was that this is potentially a growth area. So I would think in a growth area there would be more opportunity for all, not just preferred source. And one of the other things you mentioned is that there are many small businesses, hundreds, I think you quoted, in this area. So, and we're working, actually, as I mentioned, with 5 of those, and with, if it's a growth area, with the potential for more, to keep these jobs in New York State. But I would find it a little curious in terms of impact that we, with such a growth area and so many firms in it, that we could have such a what is considered a substantial impact when we look at 10 to 15% of the market traditionally. Again, I would have preferred that we work collaboratively with this, but this is the first time I've heard of concerns. And we too actually have some of our partners here in the audience who are interested in the approval of this contract.
I appreciate your position. I think that our responsibility is to look at the market and to see how many firms are participating and what the impact could be on those firms, and then if that impact is potentially significant, or if there are a large number of firms that could be impacted here, given the fact that preferred agencies and authorities are required to go to the preferred source first. The response from the industry and the response from firms, individual printing companies, has been that this would impact them, and that many, including the Guilderland Printing Company, have some contracts that could be impacted where instead of that contract going to them for close to $1 million, it could go to the preferred source. And so that's certainly an example of an impact on one business. We feel that the opportunity here to, the bigger the industry in terms of dollar amount, and the bigger the opportunity, the more that significant amount of capital goes to the preferred source, and and potentially away from New York State business. Sometimes we look at it and we see that firms, in terms of New York State businesses, there really isn't a lot of competition within New York State, that it goes to out-of-state firms. And so sometimes we see it like that. In this particular instance, there are many, many New York State firms operating in this area, and the dollar amounts are so large that this could have an impact. This isn't $15,000 or even $100,000 in activity. This is potentially millions of dollars in activity. And so, therefore, in this particular instance, we strongly recommend denial of the application.
Jim?
Thank you, Ann. I would just like to suggest that it seems to me that we have somewhat of an incomplete analysis with this. I would, while I understand and can appreciate, the thrust of this issue, I would suggest that we may table this to do some further research. Particularly on the agency side, that seems to be pretty thin. We reference the Department of Education, but we really haven't, a complete analysis there. We also have as you well know, the consolidation effort that's happening, and that may have some impact. So my suggestion would be that perhaps we table this.
Do you want to make a motion to that effect?
I would so move.
Okay. Do I have a second on that motion?
Ann, I just have a quick question. If we vote on that motion, does that mean discussion ends? Or?
Yes, for today.
Okay. So I have a couple of points I'd like to...
I think we're going to... We can still have discussion, but if with the second and then a vote, it goes the way that it goes. And then once again, I think we're going to go around the table for a vote. And the motion is to table this, and OGS will engage in further review. And ESD, would you participate with us in that review process together with NYSED so that we can have that a little more of a collaborative discussion?
And if I may, my sense is that there's interest here in discussing this matter today, so if withdrawing my motion would facilitate that, I would so do so.
Well, you don't have to, I don't think we have to...
Tom, do you want...
I just had a couple of questions, and I'll be happy to vote one way or the other.
Okay, we've got a motion in play, so we're not voting yet. We're going on for more discussion.
Okay. I just had a couple of questions for both Christine and for...
Can you put the mic...
I had a couple of questions for Christine and for Ron. One is a concern that you had identified, Christine, in OGS, concern about the issue of your resources and being able to do a analysis. And I know that that SUNY has some contracts with NYSED, and we've been pushing for that. So, and I would imagine that there's an issue of probably not getting more resources. I know you do an excellent job and don't want to streamline that, but what type of impact is this going to be on other applications in terms of time delays and time? Can you speak to that at all?
This particular application has been pretty difficult for us to benchmark, as we indicated in the analysis. And this only scratches the surface. As Ron pointed out, this is pretty basic, and it can grow from here and become much more complex. That is my fear, and that's why we put that in there, was we wanted to bring that to your attention, that is something we're very concerned about. We don't have the staffing suitable to handle something much more complex. We are committed to doing the best job we can. As you know, we have a pretty huge volume of applications to look at. We are doing that. We are working to streamline that and keep moving those forward. But some of that gets delayed when we have some of these bigger things that are difficult to do. It does impact what we're able to do.
Okay, thank you. And Ron, in the application it said you're aiming at 15%. And what are you at now? Do you have an idea of the percentage of the market that you're...
Well, we're not under preferred source. We're not allowed to do it. But what our members do now, they're fairly small. I don't know offhand what dollar value they are.
Okay.
But
so
there were some of the customers that we have for our members were listed in the application, but I don't have dollar amounts.
Okay. And so for the most part, because your pricing has been competitive, you've been able to win the regular competitive process, right?
And we can't.
Tom, we can't hear you over here.
I'm sorry. So because the pricing, which has been identified here as competitive, you've been able to win competitive bids in the general.
I assume
in the
these were competitively won, yes.
Okay. And just a comment, because I know in working with Meredith on trying to partner with MWBEs, it talked about companies outside of New York, but I did a quick look on the MWBE directory, and those companies that are identified as having digital printing as part of their coding, there are 34 MWBs and 26 of them were within New York State. So I would just encourage you, no matter how this goes today, to reach out to them, because I'm sure that along with like Camelot and other ones, that there's some other opportunities regionally for you to partner with them.
So you found 34. Steve mentioned 268, I think.
Well,
but
First of all, the profiles, folks are categorized in their profiles in different ways, and they may just have been categorized as printing companies. So the printing companies globally is 268, as I understand it through our search. Those that might specifically identify themselves as either only digital printing or have been coded as that might be less than that, but that does not mean that that is the universe of folks that do digital printing.
Right, and I agree, because I was looking specifically for digital. I was looking for the MWBE community, which I think usually are small businesses. So, and I know that there's an effort on the part of Preferred Sources to partner there.
Right.
And I just wanted to point that out to you. And I can give you the list of
no, I
ones that I
appreciate
printed
that.
out.
And the new website that Nancy was describing might help us there too. I was thinking about that when she mentioned suppliers. So, but thank you.
Gregory?
If we go forward in this motion to table, I would ask that we try to get more data on the impact on a lot of the small businesses and MWBEs if we go forward, because it seems like it's a little fuzzy. We're trying to foster somewhat different goals, and we want to make sure if we foster one, how it might impact another one of our goals.
Dave?
The comment I had when you were saying about that the application would be reviewed by OGS, so you're saying that like right now if we have a janitorial contract that we're doing at a location, OGS reviews it for price, and approves it. What's the scope then? I mean, would you then every digital printing job would come to you guys to review and approve before we would move forward with that? What would be the?
I'm not sure that it would be on a job basis, but it could be.
Right. I'm just concerned that would then slow down the other things you guys are doing, and then what the impact would be on. I mean, again, a lot of these stuff that has to get printed is kind of timely kind of things that have to get done, and we don't have the ability to wait, X number of days or weeks to get something approved. So, I mean, that's a concern.
Well, I mean, we are tasked with the job of reviewing all kinds of these preferred source service offerings. We do it, as Christine said, that we do the best job that we can, but we also don't want to engage in letting a particular kind of purchasing requirement leapfrog over everybody else's application. Generally speaking, as they come in the door, they get handled.
Okay.
So there would have to be an element of planning here, and there may be some form, function, utility decisions that if you're presented with an urgent requirement for a digital printing job, you may not be able to go to the preferred source if you have a deadline of, say, November. Today you get a requirement. You have to have it done by November 15th. And I think Ron would understand that.
Okay, so I mean, so part of the form, function, utility is the ability for OGS to review the application to approve it. I mean, you're saying an acceptable reason for us to go out, not
No,
use
what
it.
I'm saying is that the requirement is presented in a way where the timeline for it is such that it's not feasible or practical for OGS to review that application. We don't as I tried to say a few sentences ago, we don't let people come in. The application comes in, we generally put it in a queue, and it gets handled at where it lands in that queue. You can inquire, of course, at any time with Christine and her staff as to what the timing they think would be if you have something that needs to be urgently done.
Right. Well, I mean, we just had a situation where we had an application that took a long amount of time to get approved from OGS, and again, I'm just concerned if that's going to be the norm, that's going to be negatively impact this type of process, because I think printing is pretty much very time sensitive.
In this particular application you're speaking of was involving printing, and we were having trouble getting data, and that's part of what happened.
Okay, so I mean, so if that's the case, I mean, again, this took quite a.
Yes, it did.
Okay, so I mean, if that's the case, then it's kind of.
No, and I appreciate you bringing that concern to the table. I've got time for one more, okay? So I'm going to, Tom had his hand raised, so he gets it.
Mine is not that important. I'll defer.
Okay, anybody else? Can I do Mary Beth, and then we'll come back to you, Ron, and that'll be it.
I'll be really quick. Ron, in your application, there's a memo where you go through the different firms that you are working with or plan to work with, and you talk about how many staff they have. And then you mention that for every, I think it's $100,000, you put an FTE to work or something like that. But it seems a little loose to me, and it seems that there's no direct commitment that if the preferred source were to get this work, that there would actually be a disabled person put to work. And since print jobs are often, they take 3 days and then they're done, it's unclear to me how that gets someone employed when the work comes through you. So if you could speak to that a little bit, and also if in the further analysis, if there's some way to maybe put a box around this, so that, because I think what we're concerned about is how big can this get? This seems infinite in its size. And if there's a way to sort of bring it down to something that has some size that we can see and feel more comfort with, that we're not maybe doing, having a large impact on other types of entities. And I don't know whether that's size or scope or time or something, but if there's a way to put a box around it, I think that would make us maybe a little more comfortable.
Yeah, in terms, there's an absolute commitment to employing people with disabilities, and every application that we complete has a value-added labor statement. So, and we actually have a program within NYSED where we go out and review contracts once they're completed or during them to ensure that we're meeting the required ratios. I mean, every contract has if it's a partnership, it's above 50%. If it's over 10 FTEs, it's 75%. So we're very committed to validating and ensuring that people are employing individuals with disabilities. So in terms of the whole digital printing and the size of this, we did try to limit what we were requesting for approval to digital imaging, or printing. I think, for just from my layman's point of view, digital printing is very akin to almost photocopying, and we in the past have been approved for photocopying. We weren't allowed to add digital printing because of a law that's did exist for 80 years, which has been removed. So I know it's here as a new type of service. To us, it's kind of an extension of what we have been doing. And in terms of drawing the box, I mean, I don't know what would make you comfortable. I mean, we're certainly not going to get into the offset type press type thing. But this is a skill that's, learnable. The only way we can employ more people is to get additional services that we can participate in. And again, we haven't had a new service since 2006. So I understand the concern, but as Steve mentioned, it's a growing market. Technology changes, and where we once were able to do photocopying and that type of thing. It's now digital printing, and we'd like to be able to participate in that arena. Yes, sir.
Clarification on one of the
All
statements.
right,
you
well,
made.
that's it, though.
On the one statement you made, that when you partner with entities that you analyze that they're the people they employ to make sure they're insured to employ at least 50%, or you're saying more than 75%, depending upon the FTEs. Is that information? I mean, again, is that information been shared with agencies? Because again, that's a
We share it with OGS in our application. I don't know if the actual customer gets that, but we'd be happy to share that, because it is. I mean, that's the crux of our program. So we're fairly meticulous and diligent in making sure that the individuals are employed doing the work that we say they're going to be doing in terms of direct labor.
so OGS has that information and to provide to agencies.
Oh, on every application, yeah, yes.
I'm not sure we're saying the same thing.
Okay.
He's talking about the audits after the fact, when you go in after the fact and and find out who actually did the work.
Correct.
And whether they were disabled or not disabled. I don't believe that information is shared with OGS on individual audits.
No, our applications have a value-added statement.
Right, that's when it's an application and it says, please approve this and this is what will be done in the future.
Right.
This is the, right.
Right.
Afterwards, when NYSED goes and does an audit 2 years later to see who actually did the work and whether it met the disabled ratios, that audit information is what Dave is asking about.
We have it. We'd be happy to
Right, but
share
that
them.
your direct audit information doesn't get submitted to OGS.
Well, we only submit for price approval to OGS. You know, that's your oversight responsibility. So that's on the front end.
Right.
You know.
We've never seen it.
Right.
So this, so,
Oh, sorry.
okay. We have a motion to table and a request for OGS to continue to engage in a more extensive review of this application. And we've had motion's been made by Jim Bays and Tom Hipschid has seconded. I want to go around. This time we'll start with you, Tom. Do you want to approve this motion?
Approve the motion, yes.
Michael? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Kelly. Okay. Steve?
I personally think there are enough concerns already voiced, so I'll vote against that to actually have a vote.
Okay.
Approve.
Approved.
I'm prepared to vote.
Yes, approve the motion.
Approved.
Approve.
Approved.
Approve.
Oops, sorry.
Motion carried. We will continue the review of the application and come back to the Procurement Council with
Can-
additional information.
Can it be scheduled for, because I know the 45-day requirement and so on, for the next meeting in November?
I think after, we'll try, for my part, we try to make it available by the November meeting.
Okay, thank you.
In order to be ready for the November meeting, it means we have to push it out to the Procurement Council in 2 weeks. That gives us 2 weeks to do this analysis and get it done.
So
I want to ask ESD, is that
so
possible?
that is not an absolute, Ron, but we'll talk to you, we'll talk
We'll
after
try,
the
but
meeting
I'm not
about
sure
how
we
we're
can
going to
guarantee
accomplish
that.
that.
Okay, is there, I know we need to conclude, but in terms of analysis, is there a specific concern?
I think we can take care of that discussion after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one more announcement before I ask for a motion to... Okay, we do have an item on the agenda, which I'm overlooking again. Open council discussion. Any thoughts? Yes, Michael.
I'd just like to know if the council plans to review with us the e-procurement system that OGS is currently issuing RFIs, RFPs for. My understanding is that the e-procurement system is being reviewed, and the expectation is that sometime in the springtime that e-procurement system will be in place. So that's one thing I'd like to know if we're going to be talking
We can
about.
certainly add it to the agenda for the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Any other items? As you know, we've been looking for a new chief procurement officer, and the governor this morning issued an announcement that Sergio Panique will be the OGS Nice Pro chief procurement officer. He will be joining the agency in November, and we're very much, he is the CPO for the New York City DCAS, which is the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. So he brings a wealth of experience to his new job, and we're very much looking forward to him becoming part of OGS. So just thought we'd end on that note. And now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Jim. A second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. The discussion was robust today, and I appreciate everybody's participation.